Hey everybody, welcome back to Jeff Bull Central. We're checking out DC Universe Online. If you can believe it, this is a 14-year-old video game at this point. However, I will say this. It was just released this past September on Xbox Series X and S for the first time. And it looks really, really good. Like, it looks really sharp, detailed 4K, 60 frames a second, really nice. I understand it was released on PS5 earlier in the year, which makes total sense because DC Universe Online was always kind of like a dual PlayStation PC proposition. But them bringing it to Xbox is the thing that drove me to it back in the day. I probably first touched this thing in like 2017. And I'm going to be honest, I haven't actually put much time into this one, not as much as I should have. Because you know what, I've been on a bit of if you watch some of my recent videos here on Jeff Bull Central, I've been on kind of like an MMO tear. I went to Star Trek Online, which I had not played in a very long time, but which I used to really, really enjoy, even though it's not the best free MMO. Although, you know, it's a free MMO and it's about Star Trek, so I still love it. But I'm a big DC fan too, as well as being a big Star Trek fan, and Star Wars, and Marvel, whatever it is, okay? But like, I read DC comics all the time. I still do. I'm a 40-year-old man. I admit to being a 40-year-old man, schizophrenic, who reads DC comic books, still to this day, every month, man. And I didn't put enough time into this because let me tell you something. I'm going to tell you right away. It's probably the best free MMO ever. And maybe this is not news to some of you. Maybe this is not news to most of you. But it was news to me. It seemed kind of sloggy to me back in the day. And it is. In this same way that most MMOs, especially MMOs of this ilk, of this generation, again, 14-year-old game here. And look at it. It looks fantastic for being a 14-year-old game, especially since they've upgraded it for 4K and 60 frames a second, like I said. But look, if you want a really nice comic book experience, scratch that. If you want a really nice DC comic book experience, I'm talking about the good stuff, baby. I'm talking about the Primo K, and that's Kryptonite, okay? I'm talking about the good stuff. You any way you want to serve it to yourself. Put it on a platter. Here it is, okay? You know, it's the same kind of like menial A to B, do this, do that, do this, do that MMOs are, okay, in general. You gotta like the genre or tolerate it to kind of be in for this. But what's cool about it is that it's so well integrated into the DC mythos. And you make your own character, and that becomes a great advantage later on because you get really bonded with your character because they offer you all these different styles of like, you know, changing your character's costume to make it look even cooler and to really hone in your powers to make them feel even more unique to you and cooler. It's kind of a revelation to me that this thing exists like this and that I never gave it a chance. I put some good time into it this week, really, to try to give you my full honest impression here, and it's killer. It's killer. I mean, I don't want to oversell it. I hate doing that because sometimes I do that and people go, eh. You know, YouTube, it goes, eh. I chose Superman. Superman's my bro. Superman's my dude. He's my favorite superhero. He always has been. He's my mentor. You get to choose a mentor. You create a character. You choose if you're a hero or a villain. I chose heroes. Although I understand the villains are just as cool, right? Because it's DC Comics. How could they not be? And you go on this cool campaign. Now, choosing your mentor, because each affiliation has 3, so the heroes have Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman. It changes some of the levels, some of the actual missions, but not many. Mostly it's going to be heroes and mostly it's going to be villains. But, you know, you can have so many different characters to your profile, so many different heroes. And once you get through with the story, man, it's all about the mining and the work and the slog and the grind. But But you know what? I'm kind of already starting to sense that it's not a bad grind necessarily. I mean, opinions are going to vary on this pretty wildly, I'm sure. I'm sure I'll get some comments saying, I love this game. I'm sure I'll get some comments saying, meh, which is fine. You know, each their own. I started reading DC Comics at about the age of like 10, 11. Before that, I had cartoons like the Batman animated series, that great Bruce Timm animated series. They taught me about this universe, those cartoons. And then when I got into the comics, it opened up these doors of my imagination to the point that as a science fiction and horror and fantasy writer, which is something that I do, in addition to all the other stuff that I do here, I go for the big ideas. I go for the big comic book crazy friggin' ideas. And so any chance that I get to actually embody a superhero, it's a big deal for me. I love superheroes. I love comic book lore. And I love video games, which is also the mark of a good live service game. Look, okay, here's how I feel about free-to-play MMOs. Some are good, some are bad. If they've been around a long time, they're good, right? On some level. On some level, they're still capturing attention. Now, I looked into the review scores for this when it came out 14 years ago. Kind of like 7s and 8s across the board, 6s, which is about what you'd expect, you know, and that was a long time ago. And they've patched and they've added episodes and they've added characters and they've added DC moments that have actually happened after those years. I've been reading comics all this time. I'm like, oh, cool, Batman Who Laughs. I know when that's from approximately, right? I also read that there's still about 500,000 people playing it on servers. The original figures were up to like 18 million. 14 years later, there's 500,000 people still playing this. And when you hop in, man, at least in the North America server, they're everywhere. These heroes are everywhere, depending on the time of day. It's still vibrant. It's still fun. The community is still, they're a little cranky. I will warn you about that. The community sometimes gets a little, I've been here longest, how about you kind of thing. But it's probably because there's so much PvP in there, which you don't even have to touch. You don't even have to play with anybody, really, if you just want to observe. Anyways, that's DC Universe Online. It's not bad. It's really good. In fact, if it were a brand new game, I'd probably give it an 8, which for me is like a high score to me, because it's pretty good. So you should go play it, man. It's totally worth playing in 2025. It's totally worth playing. And you should also subscribe to Jeff Bowles Central, okay? God bless you. Up, up, and away.